political landscape for a great many years to come. On today's edition of End of the Age, we will discuss some things, according to the Bible, you should be focused on over the next few months. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with End Time Ministries. Thank you for joining me on Thursday's edition of End of the Age. And before I get started on my program today, I want to announce our tour, Middle East tour that's coming up, the Israeli tour that's coming up in, I think it's the latter part of October, somewhere in there, first part of November. And if you'd like to join us on that tour, I think they've got 66 or 67 people signed up already. There's only a few spots left, so if you'd like to go with us on our tour, it's a great time. I mean, it'll change your life if you've never been. You go from reading the Bible in black and white to color, and so it's actually a spiritual experience for everybody that I've ever been with. We have the baptisms in the Jordan, a lot of different things that happen. So if you'd like to join us on that trip, go to our website. You can get all the information there, or call 1-800-END-TIME and talk to my wife, Jana, or my daughter, Holly, and they'll get you set up to go with us. Just a few spots left, and so we need to close that gap. So I'm going to be talking today about the upcoming midterm elections. You say, well, that's a few months away. Well, I understand that, but over the next few months, you will hear so much rhetoric in the news. It's already happening. People will spend millions and millions of dollars trying to sway your opinion one way or the other. Who do I vote for? How do I vote? What are the issues? And so over the next several months, Irvin, Baxter, myself, we will be talking about issues that you should be looking for, and they'll get very detailed. I mean, right now they're kind of broad and some different things, but as we get down to the date, we're going to get very detailed on some things as we go through here. Now, that's not all we're going to be talking about, but we want to kind of help educate you on some of the issues. I'm going to give you a kind of a broad overview today of many of the issues that you'll be facing. But as we go into the midterm elections, I want you to recognize the socialism that's being pushed in our society, socialistic principles, trying to get you to feel comfortable with socialism in the United States. Now, I know I've talked about this a lot, and it's kind of been my candy stick recently because I just wrote a huge article on it for this upcoming End Time magazine. And so, but many people are not shocked at the word socialism anymore. You say socialism, and everybody's like, well, it's not communism, or else they think it's not communism or not headed that direction. It's socialism. I mean, we've had socialistic programs in the United States. The sky hasn't fallen, so hey, maybe it's okay. But I will make the statement, it's not where socialism begins, it's what it leads to. That's the big problem here. So you don't want to get it started. And so I want to talk about that because I've heard people say that some of these socialistic candidates are the new face of the Democratic Party and things like that. You've heard it as well. And we need to talk about it because it has a great deal to do with Bible prophecy. Because the Antichrist kingdom is going to be a socialistic world government. You remember Revelation chapter 3. There is the prophecy of the end time world government. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. It's a seven-headed, 10-horned beast. It's a combo beast, and it symbolizes the one world government. You jump over a couple chapters to Revelation 17:3, and John sees a vision of the judgment of the great harlot, the great whore in the end time. It's the false religious system the world religious system that will be established at that time. Revelation 17:3 says, "So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman." The woman is representative of the world religious system, the false church. "And I saw a woman sit on the back of a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." Well, that 7-head, 10-horn beast in Revelation 3, is the exact same 7-headed, 10-horn beast in Revelation 13, 1 and 2. But this scripture says it's a scarlet-colored beast. So we know that the end-time world government is going to be socialistic or communistic. And it always has been up to this point. You realize the United Nations, the seat of world government on the earth today, has always been socialistic from the very beginning. And the Antichrist will usurp authority over a fully functioning world governing body when he comes into power. Right now, he's an up-and-coming politician somewhere. He's alive on the earth today. There's no way, with all the prophecies coming together like they are right now, that it's going to be 30, 40, 50 years before he comes on the scene. So he's alive on the earth today, probably an aspiring up-and-coming politician somewhere. He's eventually going to usurp authority over this socialistic one-world governing body. And that's why from the prophecies of the Bible, it's kind of shocking that I would see that people trying to implement that here in the United States. With that said, that ties into the issues we'll go over here in a minute.
We are living in one of the greatest times of human history. We are just before the second coming of Jesus Christ. There are close to 1,000 prophecies concerning this time. Yet, the scriptures tell us that most people will miss the second coming of Jesus. You do not want to miss this. You can understand the times we live in and what is just ahead. You can share the information with others. Know the truth about Bible prophecy. The Understanding the End Time series was designed to help you learn the prophecies in easy-to-understand terms. 14 hours of teaching about the mark of the beast, World War III, Islam in Bible prophecy, and so much more. Equip yourself today by going to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to get your Understanding the End Time series. The End Time Prophecy Tour was the most wonderful tour. I would like to thank Irvin and Judy Baxter for a fabulous trip to Israel. I know it took much effort and planning to make it successful. What a tremendous time we all had, which warrants a great big thank you. You can't encapsulate it into words. You can't capture it with a photograph. You just have to experience Israel yourself. The Queen of Sheba said, "The half has not been told." I concur. What an awesome experience to visit the land of Bible history and see it come alive as you walk its paths. I shall be forever changed. Dale from Louisiana.
Join us October 25th through November 5th, 2018. You too can experience Israel with Irvin and Judy Baxter. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to sign up today.
So I'm not going to take time to prove that the red seven-headed ten-horn beast symbolizes the end-time world socialistic government. You're just going to have to trust me on that. Irvin Baxter and myself have talked about that many times on the program. But today I want to get into some of the issues that you'll be facing. And the reason I wanted to talk about the social world government before that is because you can see how that's trying to be implemented. It's filtering into our society as I talk to you today. And so with the upcoming midterms elections, it's going to be very important. So all of you guys know, November 6, 2018, midterm elections. They're going to shape America's political landscape, like I said, for many years to come. And so I'm asking you, and you guys know this, you got to do what's right for this country, this awesome, wonderful country that we live in. Don't get caught up in the rhetoric, okay? Don't let somebody sell you something and you think, this is awesome, socialism, I'm going to get free stuff. But you need to do your research, understand, and vote the issues. Now, the next issue of End Time Magazine, we didn't put at times in the past we put in, here's the issues, and trying to make sure you were educated. We didn't do that in this issue. I've got 2 full articles in there on socialism. We've got one in there on immigration and some different things. Irvin Baxter wrote some things on issues, so we wanted to kind of educate you that way. But you need to do your research because you're going to be voting for a lot of different things. And we don't endorse candidates. We talk about the issues. And if a certain candidate is the best on a bunch of issues, then yeah, obviously we got to talk about that. But at the end of the day, as Christian individuals, we vote the issues. And so that's what you need to do as well. But if you don't understand the issues, a lot of people I've talked to don't even really have a clue what the real issues are in the election. They're going to go in there and they're going to vote straight Republican or straight Democrat and just push a button and walk out and not even know really what happened. What a travesty. At the end of the day, understand the issues and know how the people, know how they think, people who you're putting in these offices. So, with that said, because the worst thing that would be is for Christians not to go out and vote. You say, I don't want to have anything to do with that. No. We want, everybody needs to vote actually. But myself being a Christian and my Christian brethren and sisters and different things, you need to get out and vote. Because some of these things, many of these things impact your life and how you can live as a Christian individual. So you need to make sure you understand the issues. So, what are the issues? Well, as Christians, many times we are uncomfortable with the continual wrangling between the right and the left and this, that, and the other. It's like, man, I want to stay away from that. Between conservatives and liberals, and they just bicker, and it's crazy. Just read the media, anything. The talk shows, they're absolutely filled with arguments and criticism and strife. And yet, Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. You say, well, how can I marry what's going on in the media and this, that, and the other, and I'm a Christian getting involved in that? So where do we draw the lines? Can we stand for right without being obstinate or hateful? That's the question. And the answer is absolutely. Jesus did it. He's our perfect example as a Christian. And so we need to apply what happened 2,000 years ago to our life today. And of course, with the Holy Ghost, He's living inside of you. It helps. It's obviously the best help. So, is it possible in the present climate to speak the truth and yet do it in love? To talk about things that aren't right in society, but yet do it in love and say, just educate people and say, this isn't right. We can't have this in our society if we want to have a good, godly, Judeo-Christian society. And, as the fall elections approach, the political disputes, they're going to intensify. The rhetoric is going to inevitably escalate. We can see it happening already, months before the election. Can Christians fight for what is right and still keep their hearts right and their spirits clean? Well, absolutely we can, and you should. The key is to focus on what is right. Very important. Focus on what is right, not who is right. Because we're not looking to government for our direction and for our, it's not the answer to it's not the end all. We look to God. But if we're still going to vote, we're going to be in that process, and it's the society we're going to live in, then you don't look to an individual. Because if you look to Trump as a moral figure, you could say, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you got to vote on where does he stand, what's his issues, and this, that, and the other. Where's he stand on different issues? That's what we vote on. We vote on the issues. We vote on what's right, not who's right. So, some of the key issues, let's talk about them real quick as we go throughout the program. I'll get to as many as I can. And like I say, over the next several months, we'll be going through all of these in great detail. We might spend a whole program on one, and then another program on another one to make sure by the time you get to the elections that you're educated, because the media is not going to educate you in this manner. They might talk about the issues, but they're trying to push their agenda. I mean, let's just be honest. There's an agenda that's being pushed in our society. So when you talk about these different issues, they're pushing their agenda. So if all you do is go to the nightly news and try to get how you're going to vote, you're going to have a skewed version of it. You need to you need to study and do the research yourself. And that's where we're going to try to help you from a Christian biblical perspective. So, some of the issues. The first one, let's get into globalism and national sovereignty, okay? This is going to be a big issue coming up in the midterms. So, let me give you a little history, because the goal here is to educate. So, ever since World War II, many world leaders have adopted the view that the nation state is a central cause of war. And they say each nation has its own army, and therefore, when disputes arise between nations, wars result. And this thinking has contributed to the recent rise of globalism, a call to do away with borders and to have a global community. And those that have adopted this view of globalism, they say that if nations were dissolved, the nation state went away, and if they no longer maintain their national militaries, and that war would no longer be possible. And they insist that a system of global governance could arbitrate the disputes. That's the whole reason for the United Nations, that they could arbitrate the disputes among states if all would submit themselves to the new system of globalism, or this system of world government. But those opposing globalism understand that the Declaration of Independence is polar opposite of the process of globalization, moving towards a one world government. That's the Declaration of Interdependence. We signed a Declaration of Independence. Diametrically opposed. We do not want to move into a system of world government and interdependence. And these people also realize the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights would be abolished, and all states would be forced to submit themselves to the jurisdiction of the United Nations. Now, that's the goal of a globalist. Those that are for globalism argue for, and this is where we get into some of the issues, because some of these things will be talked about. They're already being talked about. That's why I'm saying you can't just look at a candidate, know the issues and understand them. They are for open borders. I know that if you follow the news at all, there are many candidates that are already talking about this. Sanctuary cities, the abolishment of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That would be a travesty. We don't want open borders. We don't want to move into a system of world government. And those opposed to world government and globalization, they realize that borders must be maintained, or else you don't have a country anymore. I mean, let's just face it. So, a little education right here on ICE. It's a big thing. Immigration Customs Enforcement and the abolishment of borders. So, the whitehouse.gov, it states that abolishing ICE would be to erase America's borders and open the floodgates to more crime, drugs, and terrorism. Leading Democrats in Congress have called for the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement to be abolished, okay? Which would then grind immigration enforcement to a halt. And that obviously have devastating consequences for our public safety. Now, there are people that are trying to get elected to office. I'm not going to throw out names and stuff today. Maybe later on I might throw a couple out, but sometimes I have to. But they are saying we need to abolish ICE. Go look at their issues. Well, abolishing ICE would mean open borders. They can say it doesn't, but it does. They want people to be able to come across illegally and have no means of enforcement. ICE is the one, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They want to have no means to do that. They want to abolish that. So it would mean open borders because it would eliminate the agency responsible for removing people who enter or remain in our country illegally, including drug dealers, gang members, child molesters, rapists, and other sex offenders. You say, well, that's not all that comes across the border. I understand that. However, there are a lot of those that do come over, and would you not want somebody here who could say, you can't be here, go back? Anybody coming across illegally. And, you know, as a Christian individual, I love these people, but at the end of the day, the Bible talks about world government, a lot of different things. You got to understand modern day society, and I want anybody to be able to come in legally. You can't go into, there's not a country in the world you can go in and just set up shop and not go in legally and fill out papers and this, that, and the other. But yet in America, there are people that are trying to make that happen. And so they want to abolish ICE. Think about it. That would be a travesty. And then removing criminals. Abolishing ICE would allow dangerous criminals, aliens, including violent and ruthless members of the MS-13 gangs, to remain in American communities and inflict terrible harm on innocent American men, women, and children. Then seizing deadly drugs. Abolishing ICE would mean more dangerous illegal drugs flowing into our communities, causing more Americans to needlessly suffer. And then ICE, helping prevent terrorism. Abolishing ICE would mean eliminating the agency that deports aliens that pose a terrorist threat to the United States. ICE was created in 2003 to better protect national security and public safety after 9/11. The terrorists exploited immigration rules to gain entry into the United States. So abolishing ICE would enable the hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals who illegally overstay their visa each year to remain in the United States indefinitely. So why would we want to do this to our country unless you're not really for the country? You know what I'm saying? And so you got to look at this, because this is going to be one of the issues November. This dispute between globalist and nationalist is presently manifesting itself in the argument between open borders and those who want to enforce our borders by building a wall, taking whatever other measures must be necessary. And we've got a very interesting article on this from a lady, a friend of ours, who interviewed some people intricately involved in this. And so you need to, if you're not a subscriber to End Time Magazine, at least get a copy and read that article. Very good. So the Bible prophesies, obviously, a world government for the times just ahead. This issue, globalism versus nationalism, ties right into the prophecies of the Bible written 2,000 years ago. John wrote the book of Revelation 2,000 years ago. And now we're watching it come to pass. This issue coming up in the midterm election ties directly into that. This world government is going to result in the worst tyranny the world's ever seen. And, you know, fortunately, the Bible also prophesies that America is not going to be a part of this one world government. And you say, well, then why are we talking about it? Because, and this is very key, people need to understand this. God knows the end from the beginning, okay? And so He looked out through time. He was telling John what to write. He looked out through time. He saw how everything played out. And He said, hey, there's going to be a world government. The eagle's not going to be a part of it. Israel, Jordan. And so who's to say, but this stuff is, God has already seen this stuff play out in His intellect. Obviously, He knows everything. He's seen this play out, and He said, hey, in the United States of America, 2,000 years from now, the country symbolized by the eagle, this isn't going to play out. Who's to know but what we aren't supposed to have a role in helping the fulfillment of that prophecy? God didn't tell John, here's how it's all going to play out. The people are going to realize, hey, we don't want socialism in this world government in the United States of America, so we're going to resist that, and the world government isn't going to be, the United States isn't going to be a part of that world government. But he just told John the United States isn't going to be a part of it. The United States is going to stand with Israel all the way to the end. You guys know the prophecy. We're not mentioned in the world governing body in Revelation 13, 1 through 2. So who's to know but what us resisting socialism in our society isn't the way the fulfillment of this prophecy is going to play out? Because we know that the world government, this socialistic world governing body, is going to be implemented here. So we've got to talk about it. We're living through this. John was 2,000 years ago prophesying that we wouldn't be a part of it. But he didn't say, you're not going to be a part of it because of here's how it's going to play out. There's going to be a reason why that world government is not a part of the United States. Well, I can tell you right now, there are people in the United States trying to implement this socialistic platform of the world government in the United States. Whether it's democratic socialism, all-out socialism, communism, progressivism, it's all leading towards the same thing. It's not, you hear about socialism, that's why I talked about it earlier. You hear about socialism in the news and they're talking about free college and all this other stuff. There's nothing free. At the end of the day, it all leads to bigger government, more governmental control, and at the end, it leads to a few select people at the top having all control of everybody in that nation. I mean, look at history and how socialism and communism has played out over time. And look at Venezuela today and the different nations that are communistic. So we've got to talk about it, because every election from here on, I promise you this is going to come up. And we need to resist it according to the prophecies of the Bible, because the world government's going to be socialistic.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter, the new book by Irvin's grandson, provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your connection to God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at End Time will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Order this brand new book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
We have some exciting news for you today. We have created a new lesson that exposes the establishment. 3 sinister forces are trying to maneuver the United States into a system of global governance. Who is the mastermind behind these organizations? These forces, which are controlled by Satan the dragon, will work hand in hand with the Antichrist, and Americans are fighting back. What is the master plan? Where do things stand right now? We rip the covers off of Satan's hidden agenda and give you answers to all of these questions in Master Plan of the Dragon. Arm yourself with the knowledge to combat these forces. Go to endtime.com to receive your copy today, or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
So I will tell you that thankfully, it appears from Scripture that those that are wanting to maintain American sovereignty will ultimately prevail, that we won't be a part of this world governing body. But it's not going to happen if we just sit on our hands and say, well, somebody else will deal with it. And no, there are people that are very influential that are trying to implement socialism with deep pockets here in the United States of America. And one of the best ways we can resist that is to vote. Okay? Even as a Christian individual. You say, well, I don't think Christians should get involved. No. You absolutely should vote. And remember, vote the issues. Understand the prophecies of the Bible, and then vote the issues. And there's many more. I'm not going to get to just a few of them today with the rate I'm going. So let's talk about, and remember, with the midterms coming up in November and then 2020, looking ahead at these elections that are coming up that set the course of our nation here, let's talk about socialism and free enterprise. Since Karl Marx published his Communist Manifesto in 1848, the political ideology of socialism has infected the world. And it was first tried on a national basis in 1917 with the socialist takeover of Russia. The socialist revolution spread beyond Russia to adjoining states, resulting in the formation of the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, in 1922. As the power of the Soviet government grew, when it always does under socialism, bigger government. And there are people here in the United States today that are willing to say, I think government should provide me health care. I think government should provide me with a job, and government this, that, and the other. Listen, that's a soft sell. With government should provide me with free college. If government provides you with things and you rely on government for that, there are strings attached, and those strings become tied into a noose where the government's got you. If the government can give you all that stuff, the government can take it away. You don't want to rely on big government. We've got to get away from that. And so, moving on, Joseph Stalin became the undisputed ruler of the USSR. And under his ruthless dictatorship, many of you guys know, between 20 and 60 million human beings were tortured and ultimately slaughtered. And since that time, the story of socialism has always been the same. The government ultimately gains absolute power over the people. The socialist economic system doesn't work. And the socialist experiment always ultimately ends up in disaster. Always. When a self-proclaimed socialist, you guys all know Bernie Sanders, he made a serious run for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2016. Many Americans were shocked at the numbers that enthusiastically followed him. I'm not talking about Russia, China, North Korea. I'm talking about America, everyone. It was even more shocking that his platform did not differ significantly from that of Hillary Clinton, the other Democratic candidate. And for some time, Hillary, along with many other Democrats, have claimed the label of progressive. And this is another soft sell for you coming up to the elections, November 2020 and onward. Socialism, progressivism, in truth, is simply, progressive is simply another name for socialist. Okay? So don't say, well, this guy claims to be a democratic socialist, but this person's a progressive. Same thing. Many Americans have been increasingly alarmed because a large percentage of students graduating from American universities, they prefer socialism over capitalism. I promise you, not one of them have ever lived in a socialist country. And these young people have yet to launch their careers. They've never owned businesses, and they avoid proponents of socialism. And where have they acquired this belief system? They've never lived in a socialist country to say, yes, but many of them say, I'd like to live there. Where'd they get that belief system at? Well, it's obvious. It's been imparted to them by liberal professors that have infiltrated our colleges. You got to get to that young mind. I'll be 50 in 2 days. I'll be 50 this Saturday. And I can tell you, there is no way I would ever endorse socialism in the United States. Socialism is a bad thing. It's a horrible ideology. It's not good. It's not all about free college, free jobs, free, minimum wage at $15 an hour and all this other free everything, free stuff. No. That's the sales pitch, everybody. That's not where it ends up. Look at history. You would have to erase all of history and all of the socialistic projects that have been tried to sell me on it. Because I understand history. I know history and how it's all ended up. And so there's no way you're going to sell me on socialism, especially in the country where I was born and raised, and my kids were born and I raised them, and I've seen my whole family blessed by God so much in the greatest nation on the planet. Why would I want to say, let's change all that and implement socialism here? There's no way that's going to happen. America grew to be the most prosperous and economically successful nation in the history of the world in the last short, 240 plus years on the wings of free enterprise. And yet many are now being wooed by the siren song of socialism. So let's talk about it like this. Let me give you for instance, Obamacare, health care. I promise you, health care is going to come up November. And you know, I could get real detailed in telling you how Obamacare is socialism, wealth redistribution. But I remember many of you guys, you know, he's off now, but Bill O'Reilly, I remember him saying that the overriding issue here is not the minutia of Obamacare. It is the issue of taxpayer dollars. Obamacare is pure income redistribution play. And that means President Obama and the Democratic Party at that time wanted to put as much money into the hands of the poor and less affluent as they could. And the health care subsidies were a great way to do just that. And of course, the funds for those subsidies are taken from businesses and affluent Americans who have the cash. Now, there may be some listening today, I hope not, but there may be some that say, yeah, that's right, they should do that. No, that's not right. And the fact of the matter is that's socialism. You have, I think the number is like 90% of the millionaires today are self-made millionaires. They're guys and ladies that they've got a college education, or some of them haven't even got a college education. Some of them they've taken a chance. They started a business. They did something and they worked their way up. They've invested. They did a lot of things and they got to the point where they're a millionaire now. Why should I say to that individual, now that you have worked and scraped and scratched and taken a chance and taken risks to the point where you have you're doing well off financially, and somebody else who wasn't willing to take those risks, but they deserve health care and this, that, and the other, I'm going to take from you because I'm government. I'm going to take from you and I'm going to supply them with health care, but you're going to have to pay out your ear for it. That's not right, folks. That absolutely is not right. And so you say, but you're a Christian individual. We should help them. I believe we should help people who can't help themselves. Totally agree with that. But at the end of the day, I think that there are people who could maybe work a little harder. You say, well, I'm working 2 or 3 jobs. I understand. I'm not talking about the scenarios that are on the fringe. I'm talking about most people could work hard and make it. I know what it's like to struggle. I was raised poor, okay? I know what it's like to struggle. I'm not coming from the silver spoon in my mouth attitude. I'm coming from poor childhood. My dad left my mom when I was 6 years old and left us homeless, okay? So I know what it's like to be poor. I know exactly. And I know what it's like to come out of that and to work and work and work and work to the point where I could have something. So I know I've been on the whole end of the spectrum here. And so I'm not saying that, but I also know, I know people in my family that have come up with no college education that have started businesses and run them and become millionaires themselves. So to take from somebody, to just a government say, I'm going to take from you because you've just become successful, and I'm going to give to somebody who wasn't necessarily willing to work as hard, that's just not right. And so as a Christian individual, I've had people tell me, well, if Jesus were here, he would have been a socialist. No, Jesus would not have been a socialist. The Bible, the principles of the Bible are, if you don't work, you can't eat. That's a biblical principle. And so I'm looking at this and thinking, socialism and the Bible. Free enterprise, socialism. And I'm thinking, not here in America. No way. And you know, America, the way it should be is this. And look how it has been in history. America goes into a country. We try to bring peace into that country. We bomb the smithereens out of them. And then we'll go back in and pay to help rebuild the place. That situation is a lot better than a world government coming to America and say, hey, you guys have worked hard and you're very prosperous. Now, I'm taking the wealth that you have gained, and I'm going to give that to other people who weren't willing to work as hard as you and take the risk and this, that, and the other. Now, you as an American, would you appreciate that, a world government doing that? No, you wouldn't. That's why our forefathers, that's why the Declaration of Independence took place, because we come out from the tyranny of King George, who was taxing those people to death. And so, consequently, that's how this nation was started. And for somebody to want to bring in another ideology which has never worked ever, and then say, let's implement that here and it'll finally work here in the United States, I can tell you it's never going to work here. And I'm a Christian individual. I live as a Christian. And I can tell you, I don't want to destroy this country that God has blessed, He's used us to bless, many nations. We give them so much money and aid, but if they destroy our economy and destroy the United States of America, we won't be able to do that. And that's the goal of many people. So when I talk about the upcoming elections and future elections, and even the way we run our country, we need to really look at it, understand the issues, what's going on behind the scenes, rather than just going into a voting booth and pushing one button and walking out. Understand the issues, everyone.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for End Time Magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. End Time has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that End Time Magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
Well, welcome back. I kind of got a little inspired in that last segment, because I just wrote this huge article on socialism, and it's right here in my mind, and I'm shocked. I'm really shocked at how they're trying to implement socialism here in the United States. And a lot of our young people are being led around like sheep. And they're saying, they're wooing them with free stuff. Come out of college, a guaranteed job, and all this other stuff. Big government, and they're seeing like stars in their eyes. And I want to come along and say, let me issue you a dose of reality here, folks. Look at history and how socialism leads a country into totalitarianism and economic tragedy and ruin and eventually death. And so, that's what I get through. 2 issues. Man, there's so many issues that we need to talk about. And like I say, Irvin, Baxter, myself, we'll be having programs on issues coming up. And I can go a lot deeper into the issues I just talked about. But these are things you need to be conscious of. And you say, well, you know, Dave, man, we're several months out. They're starting the commercials already, folks. And those commercials are designed to educate you and to get you veered in a certain way to thinking, well, maybe socialism isn't so bad. I mean, this person is a very pretty lady. Or, you know, this guy, man, he's good looking, and hey, you know, maybe they're not so bad after all. They talk smooth, and, you know, we don't vote on the person. We vote on the issues, okay? Remember that. Don't get caught up in the rhetoric. Vote, understand, and vote the issues. And through the lens of Bible prophecy. World government's going to be socialistic. You don't want anything to do with socialism in the end time. Okay. Whew. So let me get on one more thing before the end of the program. One more issue. Gun control. I went to the 2018-2019 Socialist Party USA. Now, a lot of people don't even know that that's here. There is a Democratic Socialist Party USA, the Socialist Party USA. There's many of them. There's a Communist Party USA. And they all have platforms. And they're working those platforms. They're working their agendas, okay? They're not just sitting still. So on the Socialist Party, their platform, Socialist Party USA, it says the Socialist Party is committed to the transformation of capitalism through the creation of listen closely, a democratic socialist society. Have you heard the term democratic socialist in the news lately? You say, well, that's not really socialism. There's a big difference there. On the Socialist Party USA's platform, they say we're trying to revise the capitalist society into a democratic socialist society. See, that's why I'm saying you got to understand and know these issues before you go vote. Then on their international section, they give a huge platform. Local, national, international. They say, we endorse the boycott, divest, and sanctions movement put forth by the state of Palestine. Now, did you just swallow real hard? Because I did. These guys support the BDS movement, boycott, divest, and sanction of Israel, and out in the West Bank. They believe that they're occupying that territory, so they boycott, divest, and sanction those businesses out there. The socialist platform says that we support the right of return of Palestinian refugees, the end of the occupation of the state of Palestine. We oppose the apartheid policies of the Israeli government and all aid to Israel. These people are against that. You want to vote that into the United States of America, into our Congress and different governmental positions? We support the creation of an inclusive, secular, and democratic state of Palestine. Okay, now that's a huge mouthful right there. If you don't go read these platforms and understand the issues, not just what you're getting in the liberal media, I could name a bunch of them, they'll be putting out lists of issues for you to vote on. And they're going to give you surface knowledge, what they want you to hear. I went through some of them today, and I'm thinking, wow, come on, let's tell everybody the whole truth here. The socialists support the boycott, divest, and sanction movement against Israel. I'm not going to be for anything that's against Israel in the end time. I can tell you that right off the bat. You guys already know, we are huge supporters of Israel. I'm not going to, especially this boycott, divest, and sanction movement, as a Christian individual, I want nothing to do with that. Perhaps I'll do a program just on that in the future. Boycott, divest, and sanction movement. If you don't know what it is, you need to. Because there are people trying to implement those principles in the United States of America, the country that I love, folks, and that you love. This country has been very, very good to me, and I'm thankful. I'm beyond thankful to be able to live in this country. I think God has His hand upon this country. He's had it upon this country from the beginning because we were founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and our laws were founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And God has blessed us for years. And I pray that He continues to bless us, and I believe He will. Wow. Boycott, divest, and sanction. Don't want that here in America. Number 2, and this is very important, this socialist platform says we stand for the unconditional disarmament by the United States. Unconditional disarmament, man, of the United States. Why would they want us to do that? Well, that all boils down to absolute control with no means of resistance. That's what gun control is all about. Why would you take away somebody's ability to defend themselves? Why would you want to do that? Ask yourself that question. Say, well, I don't agree with keeping a gun. Well, that's fine. You don't have to. But there are people that believe I should be able to have a gun for self-defense, to be able to go hunt, but that's not what it's for. That's not what the Second Amendment was all about. Not hunting and sport shooting, clay pigeons and going skeet shooting. The Second Amendment was to be able to resist a tyrannical government and to be able to throw off that government and set up a new government, and for people to be able to defend their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And so the Democratic or the Socialist Party USA, they say that they want the unconditional disarmament by the United States. The Democratic Socialist of America website, which you've heard that term, I'm a Democratic Socialist, they say. Well, on their website, they have an article, the Second Amendment is a threat to all. A threat to us all. So let me respond to that by saying, Thomas Jefferson said, when governments fear people, there is liberty. Okay? Small government, they fear the people, there's liberty. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny in government. It wasn't to go deer hunting, which I love to do. It wasn't to go wild hog hunting, which I love to do. It wasn't about hunting. It wasn't about skeet shooting. It wasn't No, it was to throw off a tyrannical government. After years of slavery, our forefathers defected from England with the dreams of a land that would be governed by the people, not a tyrannical king. They came out from under that. In an effort to guarantee more freedom and less control, they signed the Constitution of the United States, which limited governmental control of the people, okay? Then to further restrict any ability to establish a strong central government, the U.S. House of Representatives devoted the first 10 amendments, or the Bill of Rights, to the Constitution to the protection of the individual liberties. Of these, the Second Amendment gives every United States citizen the right to keep and bear arms, not with the intent of providing weapons to hunt rabbits, but as a means of a defense against a tyrannical government that might seek to enslave individuals and to strip them of their God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, the Second Amendment, it states this: a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, of the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment is the most debated today. It'll come up in the next election, I promise you. It'll be one of the issues. They're going to be talking about it. May not be the most hotly contested one, but it'll come up. I've seen it on people's platforms. Some have said that it gives the state the right to control any militia and that only those individuals should be armed. Others say because of the Game Act law passed in English by the English in 1671, which restricted hunting to those of wealth, that the Second Amendment only allows citizens a weapon capable of hunting. But that's simply not the case, folks. The original framers of the Constitution knew that there needed to be a specific provision to arm people. Why? The answer is clearly found throughout the documents that were used to forge our nation. Armed United States citizens have the right to protect their individual liberties and property against any government or dictatorship that would try to strip them of either of those. Not only were arms to be used as self-defense or a defense against a tyrannical government, but the forefathers also believed that it was the duty of every American citizen to throw off any such government or dictator and to provide new leadership for the future of this nation if it became a tyrannical government. That's the reason for the Second Amendment, folks. It's not, there are a lot of people that will say it's just about hunting. Yes, we should restrict it down to, yes, you can go hunting. That's not what it was for. But think about it like this. If you were trying to implement another political ideology in America, then yes, you absolutely would want them to disarm. Because absolute gun control is absolute control with no means of resistance. Okay? Without the universal armament of the population, they would have no means. It wouldn't be possible to throw off a tyrannical government. And for this cause, our forefathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honors to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the Second Amendment, thus protecting the right of every individual in the United States to keep and bear arms. They understood there was only one reason why any government or dictator would seek to disarm the population. And again, I will say, absolute control with no means of resistance. Now, like I said, those are just a few of the issues, but now you see why you should understand the issues and vote the issues. Do not get caught up in the rhetoric of all these commercials and all these different things that are going to be thrown at you over the next several months. Dig deep, do your research, do the homework, and know the issues before you vote in these upcoming elections. And like I said, Irvin Baxter, myself, will be doing more programs between now and then, educating you so that way you can make the right decision.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of End Time Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with End Time Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.